All right, another episode of the RSL Random Fan Podcast, ones we look forward to every year. We reach out and we get to chat with probably how would you describe yourself? You're like
The Gandhi of Salt Lake.
not the Gandhi,
The Gandhi of
the
sports
old
radio.
people.
I call soccer games on the radio, man. Gandhi.
What is it?
I don't know. You got me there. I knew you were going to say something offbeat and different. But Gandhi?
Yeah, man. Kidding me? I was a kid and I was seeing you on TV, so it's really weird to like chat with you and like sit next to you. I'm just like,
okay, and I get
talking
that.
sports. Yeah.
It's not the first time I get that, but Gandhi?
Oh yeah, man. Well, you're Gandhi with a microphone because you were not prepared the last time I saw you, and you're like talk on the microphone, and you're like, all right, and you have like 4 better questions than anybody else in the room. So yeah, you have a little touch of Gandhi there.
I was going for senior statesman. I don't know how that.
That was more what I was expecting. Yes.
Yeah.
But if you want us to, Gandhi it up for you, we'll get some T-shirts. We can get some T-shirts, man.
Yeah, we can make some Gandhi.
I know.
Some stickers.
I went to UC Santa Barbara, but I took a few serious classes, and I took one on Gandhi, and it was super interesting. It was really an interesting class. It was great, and they wrote a book and they made a movie, and I call soccer games, so easy on it. Easy does it there, guys.
well, I've known about you.
I didn't unify a subcontinent.
small version. Gandhi Jr.
Really,
Gandhi Jr.
Really.
Well, go in that direction. You have done a lot of great things, though. I've known about you for a long time. I think you served with the Road Home homeless shelter. Did a lot of stuff with them.
Yeah, I've done some work for them. Yeah,
and then also, you brought in the Super Bowl of Caring.
Yep.
Which helps raise food, right? I know raise money for food.
Raise money and collect food for the organizations that are feeding hungry kids across the state. Sometimes it's school districts, sometimes it's pantries. You never know.
Yeah, I worked with the Road Home for a few years on their board and stuff, and I would go to our local Lake Ridge Elementary, give a shout out to the Cougars out here, Lake Ridge Elementary out in Magna, and help them do Super Bowl of Caring for several years as a representative from
their PTA. Their PTA really took a hold of that and ran with it. They did a great job at Lake Ridge. I did not know that you were a Lake Ridge Cougar or affiliated with said Lake Ridge Cougar. I
am graduated there. It took me 8 or 9 years, but I made it through elementary school. But I did kind of get in trouble because one of the times I went to the assembly for the Super Bowl of Caring, I was trying to get the kids to encourage them to bring more food. And I just told them, I suggested, if it's me, I'd go and get the green beans.
because nobody's going
to eat the green beans. And I guess they said, we got way too many green beans. Don't say that again. So I got kind of in trouble. I was trying to do something good, and I screwed it up, as usual.
Weird.
So anyway, since we're done with the Gandhi section of the show, let's jump in. DJ, what are your thoughts on the new ownership so far? You're probably a lot closer than we are, but what are your thoughts so far?
I think they've mostly done what I hoped what they would do, what I expected they would do, but what I did not know if they would do. And it's also a sliding scale as far as the timeline. Even if you think they're going to do it, you don't know what transfer window they're going to do it in, because you don't know how fast they want to move and how confident they are. And then just the right people have to be available. You don't want to spend money just because you have it and end up with the wrong person. And you were there for the press conference after the win over Austin, where Morgan Giavogi said, well, they've been talking to me for a year and a half, but I wasn't ready to go. I didn't want to go that far away from home. And there was an opportunity for Germany. So I got to go away from home, but not so far away from home. And so, there's some things the club doesn't control. I think that there've just been so few times, when RSL was flying, when Jason Christ was coaching and Garth Lagerwey was the GM, it was just a different league. The level of investment was different. The league was smaller. The league has almost tripled in size. Well, it depends on what year you take it from, right? It was a 10-team league there briefly. So in that case, it has tripled from that year. And the new owners have come in multiple markets with a big money, and they have spent it. I mean, what is happening in Miami is incredible. But it's not like LAFC isn't being aggressive. Seattle's been aggressive for a while, but now San Diego comes in and they're aggressive. And Vancouver, who was, quite frankly, just a non-factor, right? You looked at Vancouver and thought, well, probably 4 points out of 6 in an average year, 3 in a bad year, 6 in a good year. And now all of a sudden Vancouver's flying. So everybody's stepping up their game, and the people who aren't stepping up their game are getting left behind. I mean, it is shocking to see how far Kansas City has fallen, right? And yeah, Peter Vermes is gone, and it was an awesome run. He had a fantastic run, but sometimes runs just come to an end, and that one did. So they got to find their feet again. And until they do, they are getting left behind. Now, who's to say, right? They may figure it out. I think to circle back to your question about what's happened with the Larry H. Miller Group, they're willing to spend money and invest. And I think that the front office has done a really good job of finding guys who are bargains, shopping over in the bargain bin, over in the 2-for-1, over in the gently used section of the clothing store. And they have found people. And you have to do this. You have to do this if you're LAFC. I mean, it's a salary cap league. So you can't pay everybody. And so whether it was finding Emeka Eneli in the draft, whether it was finding Noel Caliscan, who Portland cast off, right? Whether it was finding a goalkeeper who was out of contract, just kind of floating around looking for home in Cabral. I mean, we can find multiple starters that they found in the bargain bin. But the problem is big money clubs don't tend to miss on goal scorers. Everybody spends money on goal scorers. If you try to go find goal scorers in the bargain bin, good luck. Good luck. Now, I do think it can be done, and I think you can find one. But generally what it is there's one attacker, and he's surrounded by 3 attackers who are really good, who are getting paid. And then that helps him elevate his game, and he gets discovered, but he doesn't stay underpaid for very long. He gets leverage, and then he gets big money, and you just don't stay underpaid, right? So that's where RSL has fallen down. I mean, they just don't have that many 15-goal scorers in the history of the club, and mostly they've been bargain basement guys. People forget Damir Kreilach was brought in as a defensive midfielder. And when Mike Petke wanted to move him up to striker, I mean, I remember standing there talking to Petke, and he was getting called out by the national media, crazy Mike Petke. Okay, well, they weren't totally wrong with that nickname.
I was just going to interrupt you.
We don't need to go into Mike could get a little crazy. But in this instance, he said, and I've heard Pablo say this exact same thing. He says, I know what people are saying, but they don't see every minute of every training session. And he saw Damir as a defensive midfielder ghosting into the top of the 18 with a late arriving run and scoring. And he thought, hey, wait a minute, that was a quality finish. And then it happened again, and then it happened again. And pretty soon he's like, hey, this guy can finish. Let's get him closer to the goal. So you get those steals once in a while, but you have to pay people. And RSL did pay people a couple of years ago, and the front office spent the money wisely, and the coaches put a great system in place, and they brought in 2 guys who were more expensive than they'd ever brought in before, right? All we heard about, I mean, the club was sending out the press releases. These are the most expensive signings ever. And they brought in Chicho, and they brought in Andres Gomez. And Andres Gomez's first year didn't do anything. And I asked Pablo his immediate impression of him. Pablo's like, another year he's going to be one of the top 2 or 3 wingers in the league. And I remember thinking, Pablo, I like you, but I can't drink the Kool-Aid that fast. Are you kidding me? If he'd said top 10, I would have been impressed. There's 30 teams in the league. So ballpark 60 wingers, right? Top 10 or top 20 would be impressed. He's like, top 2 or 3. And then midway through the year, when it just wasn't happening, I'm like, Pablo, you said top 2 or 3. And he's like, DJ, he doesn't speak English. He's never been in the northern hemisphere before. He's learned a new culture. He doesn't know any of his teammates. He doesn't know any of the opponents. He has never flown on airplanes week after week before. And he came without his wife, and he's unsettled. Like, just give it time. And sure enough, he got a training camp. And Pablo always lectures me on how important training camps are. And he came out flying, and he had like 13 goals, 8 assists, and they moved him, So that team with Gomez for half a season and then Chicho getting in the trouble he got in halfway through the season, they still had the most goals they've ever scored, the most points they've ever scored. So the history of the club is everything's in place if ownership will spend money. Mm-hmm. And I thought the Millers would spend money because, number one, they spent money with the Jazz. And I know that's not the narrative. And if you want to go back and only talk about the 80s and 90s, all right, maybe you got a point. But you get into the 2000s, like they gave Carlos Boozer a lot of money and they gave Mehmet Merkur a lot of money, or neither one of those guys would come to Utah. And Andre Kirilenko got a ginormous contract for that era. And D. Willa was going to get paid. He was on a rookie contract. They didn't have to pay him. So they spent money. I thought they would spend more money. And sure enough, they did. They spent money when Dennis Lindsay wanted to spend money in the next decade. So I thought they were going to spend the money. And they did. And it looks like they've spent it well. I mean, Morgan really, that dude's smooth. I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife. He's all over the place. But I won't be surprised if he ends up being 10-goal, 10-assist guy.
Well, that's a nice edit. Here's Tyler.
White guy.
Hey, thanks for letting me join, guys.
Yeah, we're just talking about the Millers and money.
And okay. Perfect.
And I think the reason that they're going to look good in front of goal is they spent money. I think Olatunji was a good get off the little bit we saw of him at the end of last season. I think Morgan Giavogi can be a 10-goal, 10-assist guy. And I think that we'll have to see how he's deployed. Because right now he is dropping a long way from goal. So that 10 goals may be a big ask. In Atlanta in transition, I thought he had 3 shots early in the game.
Yeah.
He didn't score on any of them, but they were all well taken. They didn't work out for one reason or another. One time it was a random kneecap flying in. I mean, stuff happens. But if he's close enough to goal, he's going to score. Now, he does play a long way back, so that may make the 10-goal, 10-assist prediction a little bit of a reach. Maybe not the 10 assists, but the 10 goal. Yeah. So, but I also think people are saying, the Millers are spending a lot of money. I'm like, okay, these are people chasing a Major League Baseball team. So that's $1 billion here. That's $1 billion there. You've got to build the stadium. You've got to pay the franchise fee. You haven't hired any front office, any scouts, any of the support staff. Then you got to pay 25 players. So to all of a sudden say, I can't believe they spent $6 million. Really?
Like that's chump change. Yeah.
It's so
well, I mean, it depends on the neighborhood you move in, right? My first job, I had to buy, I didn't have to, but I was doing radio and I wanted to get in TV. I thought I better watch all these sportscasts. And I'm working because I was working afternoons and evenings at the radio station. I'm going to buy a VCR and I'm going to be able to see what everybody does. And living in Santa Barbara, I could see the local people in Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and San Luis Obispo, but I could see all the LA stations too. And Keith Olbermann was in LA breaking in at that point. Yeah. And so I'm watching all these guys, right? And I had to buy a VCR and it had 8, most of them only recorded 4 shows. And this recorded 8. This is such old technology. Oh my gosh, I'm dating myself. But anyways, at least 1 or 2 of you know what I'm talking about.
Dude, I was alive for VHR. Like, come on.
So it was, I remember this. It was $800. And at that point, writing a check for $800. I mean, I thought I was going to
writing a check.
I was writing a check, right? I couldn't pull out the plastic, Venmo you 800. What's a Venmo? I was writing a check. And I thought I was sweating. I was lightheaded. So how much money you spend is relative to what you have. And obviously the Miller family has ginormous resources or they wouldn't be chasing a Major League Baseball team. And they wouldn't be doing some of these real estate deals they're doing, right? So it's all relative. So I didn't know how quickly they spend it, but I thought they would. I didn't think they'd go cheap on it. I don't think there's any point. They're going to do real estate deals around the stadium, and no one's excited to build around a stadium that's home to the team that's 13th place in a 15-team Western Conference. Exactly. So I always thought they're going to spend the money. Now, how much more do they have to spend? How much is this league going to keep accelerating? What is it going to take to stay top 4? And I know a lot of people talk top 4. I personally think the goal should be different. I think the goal is qualify for Champions League. The most excited I ever saw people in this market for this team, and not just soccer fans, but the casual sports fan kind of going, hey, whoa, what's going on? What? You're beating teams from Mexico. I don't think U.S. soccer is that good, but if you're beating teams from Mexico, if you're in the same group with Cruz Azul and you beat them and you win the group, maybe you're good. Maybe I need to watch. So I think that's where they need to go to really recreate the excitement. But in some ways, being top 4 in the West and qualifying for the Champions League is, if you do one, you're probably going to do both. So it's little apples and oranges.
No, that's a very good point, because a lot of just like those skimmer fans, like where they're just on the surface, they only go when they're good, or their friend says, "Hey, you need to watch them; they're exciting."
Just Utah fan.
Kind of Utah fan. That's really what the general mass is right now. So if we can get those guys in, we'll definitely be more successful.
You can say that all you want, but I grew up in San Diego. I've seen the Padres draw 40,000, and I've seen the Padres draw 14,000. And you know what the difference is?
Winning.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we can find that pretty much anywhere we go.
I think you're absolutely right about the Champions League, Champions Cup.
Yeah.
Now, because I have not attended a game that has even come close to that Monterey final.
Unreal, huh?
Yeah.
Just unreal. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was exciting playing Saprissa, and it was exciting playing Cruz Azul in group play, which they don't do group play. They've redone the format, but nonetheless, it's just exciting to, and if you can get to the round of 16 or the quarterfinals, you're probably going to be facing a club from Mexico, and yeah, it gets people pumped up. And it's more games. It's a chance to make more money. I mean, you're going to
more bums and seats. Yeah.
You're going to sell more tickets. You're going to sell more jerseys. Concession stands are going to overprice the beer and the soda. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Small question, though, real quick. Small question. The jerseys that have come out, what's your take on them? Do you enjoy them? Do you feel like we're always kind of that middle ground, doesn't want to get anybody mad kind of stuff?
No, I think some of the stuff they've worn has gotten the fan base mad. So, I don't think they've successfully negotiated that. I'm no good at that stuff. You can ask my wife; she'll tell you, and she won't think about it very long either. So I don't know that I'd be the go-to. I think over the years they've had some I like better. I can never remember the names of all of them because I'm just not that into it. But the one they had with the white a couple of years ago with the dashes on it, kind of textured with the small splashes of color. I forget what those are called. And I thought the one with the peaks. I'm of the Ryan Smith has said this out loud and really sold it. Other people said it first probably, but he's really been loud about it. Like we invest so many tax dollars in our sports teams. Our sports teams should sell us to the rest of the country, whether it's bringing tourists in, whether it's helping recruit businesses or helping keep businesses here. Sports ought to contribute overall. And obviously, if you're trying to brand Salt Lake, there's a few quick ways to do it, and the mountains are one of them. So there are Jazz fans that hated those mountain jerseys of the late 90s. I didn't. And there's RSL fans who hated the mountain motif they wore last year. I didn't. I mean, sell the mountains. That's what we've got. And you go to other places, and other places – they're cool and they're great and they've got their thing, but nobody's got mountains. And I have a lot of friends and family who come in from out of state, and some have been here and some haven't. And some college roommates have made 47 polygamy jokes. Like, dude, I've heard them all. You're not funny. You're not, you think you are, but you are not funny. You weren't funny in the dorms decades ago. You're still not funny now. But you know what they all say after they stop with that is they all go like, wow, these mountains are unreal. This is like, the mountains go, I mean, the city is built up and then the mountains go straight up out of the city, and you just don't get this anywhere else. And I lived in Santa Barbara. That's a pretty cool place with some pretty spectacular views, but you don't have what we have here. Now we don't have the ocean, so everybody's got something to sell and everybody's missing out on something. But I think we ought to sell the mountains.
I like it.
What are your thoughts on the team so far and the early success? Does that jive with your predictions? I picked them to finish 10th. I picked them to finish 10th.
Really? No. No, I never thought 10th. No, I actually had Jason Kreis on a radio show earlier this year. I think PK was off that week. And I said, Jason, if I could just summarize what the fan base is thinking, I'm speaking for a lot of people all at once, so it's going to be general and everybody's going to tweak and do their own thing. But on the whole, I think people are tired of seeing RSL picked with the 13th best talent and 14th highest payroll in the West, and then see if the front office and the coaches could just squeeze every last point out and maybe sneak into the playoffs at 6, 8, or 9. What if you went in with the 5th, 6th, or 7th best payroll and the 7th, 8th, or 9th best roster on paper, and then they tried to see if they could get to 3rd? That happened a couple of years ago and is pretty exciting, right? And I think we have to accept our place in the food chain here. Like, this is not going to be a team that's 1, 2, or 3 in the West in payroll. I just
never.
Yeah, I don't think that's
we're not getting
happen.
Ronaldo. We're not getting.
Well, we're not getting anybody over a $6 million ever.
Yeah. Well, right now, I mean, who knows where things are going? But in this current era, yeah, I agree. I mean, the mega stars are going to go play for LAFC and the Galaxy. We know who they are. We can name them, right? Even Seattle doesn't get players like that, mostly because they think they don't want to play on turf.
Still, what is that about?
Turf.
Why are we still on turf in this league?
Cities in the world.
I feel like we need to grow as a league and just have no turf ever.
Agreed.
So there's 3 cities on turf in the West, and they are all in the Pacific Northwest, and they used to get a lot of rain, and they don't get nearly as much rain as they did, so maybe they ought to change.
Well, they also make roofs. You know what I mean? They have roofs. I mean, I've been in homes in the upper west side.
They know how to.
I look up. Now. There is light fixtures, ceiling, all that stuff. So there is technology there that we should invest in.
There is. And, I think Vancouver is going to move out of the dome and get a new stadium. I'm not sure the exact timeline, how quick they'll get that put together, but it'll be interesting to see if they go to grass when they do.
Have you heard if it's going to stay in Vancouver?
I don't know if it'll go to the burbs, but I think somewhere in Vancouver, yeah. I mean, they've been looking for something. They want their own place. That place is too big.
It's never filled.
I think that Seattle, they're sharing an NFL stadium, and the NFL is going to do whatever the NFL does. So I don't know what Seattle can do about it. Portland's an interesting one because that is a multi-purpose facility and they use it for a lot of events. I just don't know. I don't know if it's as much about the weather as how many events they want to put on it. I mean, they move college football in and out of there. I think it's currently out, but it's been in and it might be back again. Obviously they got the NWSL playing there too. So, and they want to put high school events. They've had high school stuff in there at different times. So the history of that facility is really interesting. You can go digging around online and find them doing ski jumping in there back in the 30s. And I think they had I think they had short track auto racing in there at one point. I mean, they've done a lot of stuff in that.
Entrepreneurs over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you are surprised with RSL how the season started?
Oh, I got distracted. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me of the question.
Sorry, that's what I do. Sorry.
Well, I'm surprised because they haven't been starting their guys. They had that Wednesday training session before the season opened, and they had 4 injuries in 20 or 30 minutes, whatever it was.
Well, they call it Bloody Wednesday or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, and so I don't know ultimately what their preferred starting 11 is. I don't know if they know for sure, but I think you can argue that they've been missing at least 3 and possibly 4 or 5 starters, depending on which of these games we're talking about and what you think their preferred lineup looks like. But striker 10, I mean, Hezerkani, he's slated to come off the bench. He's played great, but they're not going to take the job away from Luna. So, what are you going to do there? I don't know what they're going to do in the Ojeda position. I think they thought Pablo Ruiz would be further along, but he isn't. I think he played with the Monarchs today as we record this on a Sunday night. And you see if they can get him up to speed. And they didn't know Emeka Anelli was going to get hurt. So, I think we're going to have 3 starters in that position in the first 5 games alongside Caliscan as they search for whatever they're trying to do. Philip Quinton's had to step into the back line. I think he's played well, but he's definitely not the preferred starter. So off the top of my head, that's 4 players right there that they've been missing. So
let alone striker, right?
So there's no way I thought that they would be sitting here with 9 points out of 12 when they have 4 starters out of the lineup. There's just no way I thought that would happen. And I think it's really interesting now when you look at what else is happening in the West. Vancouver had a shocker, just a nightmare in their Champions Cup game with Seattle. But in league play, they're 4-0 and they've outscored people 14-1. That 1-goal loss RSL had on the road up there in the opener, that's the most competitive game Vancouver's played. They've been absolutely annihilating people. San Diego is also 10 points out of 12. They've outscored people 11-3. LAFC hasn't given up a goal. Seattle would be undefeated right now if they hadn't lost to RSL, and that's the only 2 goals Seattle has given up all year. So the top of the West is intense, and after next week's game, there's a decent chance we're going to say RSL has played. What will they play? They will have played 3 of the top 6 teams in the West, and they'll be one of them. They'll be a 4th, right? So there's only 5 potential teams to play if they're in the top 6. That's crazy. And the fact that LAFC hasn't given up a goal and Vancouver and San Jose have only given up 1, that's amazing. That's just outrageous. And so where RSL is sitting right now, phenomenal start. They're flying, and they're just starting to get their guys back. I don't know how much longer Yedlin is out. But obviously Luna, okay, so we've seen him for the first time. If they play him 45 next week and then play him 90, maybe they play him 60 next week. We'll have to see how that goes, see how training goes, I guess. But he probably doesn't play 90 until after the bye would be my guess. The question is whether they bring him on at halftime and let him finish the game on the road, or whether they start him and play him 60 minutes and take him out. We'll have to see.
I've been watching these games, and even these guys like Hezard Khani and Moisa, who I really have been impressed with. Is this the most technically talented team the RSL's had in a while? Because it's just kind of apparent compared to what they had in the last few seasons.
I think it will be once they have their whole crew out there. I think what they've counted on is speed, and the technical ability has been good enough to cash in. I mean, you can have guys who are really fast who just, send the ball over the bar, put it right in the keeper's stomach, scuff it on the ground and send it wide. I mean, these guys we've seen that ability in transition and not only get in behind, but then finish once you're there. But I think the technical ability goes up once you have Olatunji and Luna in. I was talking to Pablo about that, about will you have success against Austin before the game? Because you've scored at that point 4 of their 5 goals that come in transition. And a lot of teams just come up here and play pretty deep anyway, just park the bus, right? Why would you come to Utah and play a high line, especially when you've seen what's happened? And so would these guys have problems unlocking that? And to a degree they did. So, but I think if you put Olatunji and Luna in, then that technical ability and the ball goes way up. You lose a little bit of speed, you lose a bit of that pace. In the long run, I suspect those guys with the technical ability start. And I think that on the left side with Sanabria or Sanabria, I keep hearing even people on the team are pronouncing it differently until I hear it from him. Yeah, until I hear it from him.
Sanabria, what? That's how you say it in Spanish. Is he speaking Portuguese or something?
But you got people who speak French on the team. You got people you got English native speakers who mangle the English language. So you know who that goes.
It's true.
So anyway.
Like Moisa and Moisa.
Gila, yes, see, right. With Gila Vogie and that, I think those two combining on the left side. I mean, they've had good players on the left side. We can all name players on the left side who've been really good. But now to have those two starting and combining, I don't know that they've had that. That's dynamic. That one's a threat every time they touch the ball. Yeah, right.
And they're so quick. Yeah, and it's also I really love that the past 2 seasons. It always felt like we were Pablo always says we're east to west. We were east to west. We were never vertical, but it also felt that they were scared to play anything through the center. Like they didn't want the ball with like a 360 awareness. They wanted everything in front of them or just, limit the angles. But now it's like we've kind of just accepted it. And now Guy Lavogie is he's kind of free almost. It looks like when he gets the ball, he's able to play free and our passes are going a lot farther than they've been in the past, which is really impressive.
Yeah. Now I do think that part of that's where the speed has helped. Because over time, we've seen defenses, guys just get afraid of, okay, this guy's running behind me 5 times now. Do I really want 6, 7, and 8? Right. And so that opens up space in the midfield. And now instead of playing 10-yard passes, you can play 20 and 25-yard passes. But also, I think it just comes back to the technical ability. A less experienced, let's face it, less expensive player might think I'm not quite accurate enough. That's not a lot of space. Whereas a player who's technically more precise is like, that's plenty of space. I can put that ball in there. I'm not going to worry about losing it because I'm not going to lose it. I'm going to thread the needle. I'm going to find my guy and away we go.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah, I talking about that, I think I've been so impressed with Moisa and Hezarkhani because at their age, they just fit right in with their technical ability. Moisa always seems to know where his teammates are, no matter if he's getting the ball at his feet or in the air. He always looks like he knows where his teammates are. And Hezarkhani, I mean, he pulled
That
that
sideline dance,
the sideline
and the up
in
against the
practice, and then he pulled it off.
pulled it off in the
He
game.
megged the guy down on the
Yeah,
end
that
line.
was
It's like,
awesome.
holy cow. These guys are good, and it's always like, man, how do you push them to the bench? And then what do they do to keep them engaged once the regulars come back and you've got these obviously talented kids sitting on the bench?
Well, that is why Pablo gets the big money. And I think that it comes to the psychology. First off, yes, there'll be a time they go to the bench, and maybe this is going to work out perfectly. Pablo doesn't like to sit guys when the team is winning, because that's the whole point. So I think that's why Luna comes off the bench and Victor Oltunche comes off the bench, maybe for 30 minutes, maybe for 45. We'll see what the training staff and the performance people say. But if they lose in San Diego, and you would think there's a decent chance, I mean, they won there last year and San Diego's really good. Are they really going to win there twice? That gives them permission to mix it up after the bye and say, well, we lost, guys. You want to stay on the field, you got to win. So don't worry about the big picture and the standings and the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. Like, the only thing that matters is right in front of you. If we win, you stay on the field. And if you lose, I mean, this is like a pickup game, right? Winners stay, losers are out, next team in. And so that gives a sense of urgency. But I also think there's a message to Hezarkhani, which Pablo believes he's said this since Hezarkhani was 12.
Last week.
He said the guys with speed, if you come into the start of the game, people might be able to run with you. You're only a half step or one step faster than them. But if you let the other guys go out and start and put your ego on the side and let these guys run for 60 or 70 minutes, when you come in, you're going to be 3 steps faster.
You're going to be way faster than
right.
them.
Exactly. Right. And Pablo can speak to this. I mean, the guy played in 2 World Cups and he won an MLS Cup. He's like, yeah, when you're a defensive midfielder or you're in the back line and you've been running for an hour, and then you look over and see this 18-year-old ready to reel off a bunch of, 10 flat 100-meter dashes, like, no, I don't want to deal with that. And so inevitably you step back and now the game's wide open because you're 2 steps deeper, you're 3 steps deeper. And again, you're giving Luna tons of space to operate in the midfield. And so I think the message to Hezarkhani is like, hey, bide your time. They'll be tired. Your speed on display. And you know what happens? The goals in the last 30 minutes are the one people remember, because they're the ones, as we just saw against Austin, to break the 1-1 tie and win the game. So bide your time. Your moment will come, and you're going to have a chance to bring the people to their feet, and you're going to have a chance to, time. And then inevitably there'll be suspensions. People will get hurt. People will go away for international dates, which sometimes MLS takes off. Sometimes they don't. There are going to be chances to start. I mean, when it's all said and done, if I told you Hezarkhani was going to start 9.5 games, would you take the over or you take the under? Because I'm pretty sure I'd take the over. And you probably can't bet on that somewhere in this era. I mean, why not? Yeah.
There's
Shout out Kalshi.
Probably out there. Yeah.
Probably not in Utah, right?
No, I think you can online gamble that.
Oh, no. Kalshi is actually Utah based.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought the Governor Cox shut it down. I don't know. Whatever.
Just drive to Wendover and log on there. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, VPNs are
Wyoming
everywhere.
and log on in Evanston. I mean, whatever. It's not, you know where the freeways are. We all know if that's your thing.
So
Nice laugh. Nice laugh. You okay over there? Somebody Heimlich him.
yeah. Quick question. I thought about this after the post game against Austin because Pablo's brought it up more than once. I thought it was an interesting thing to bring up, where he says the comments of the team bringing in character guys.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, how bad was it when you had to have a focus that, you know what, we need guys that we can trust to be good guys.
Well, I think a couple things. Okay, well, 3 or 4 things then. Yeah, you can just say Chicho, right? Chicho's the high-profile one.
Yeah.
But there have been other guys that he's butted heads with. And there have been other guys who are like, yeah, they want to win, but they want to win on their terms. And that's pretty common in sports. So as much as we can say, well, A is happening because B happened in the past and reacting to it. Well, there's probably some truth to that. You're not totally up in the night with that theory. But also it's like, well, this is just human nature. You know, some guys want to be part of the team, and some people believe the team is there to carry them off the field. That's why the team is here. Hoist me up, carry me off. Let's go. So I think you always have to be on guard about that. I think that should be a focus every year, right? And the best teams, somebody's got to do the dirty work. You know, if you're there to win on your terms, if you're there to score goals but only defend half the time, well, that's just going to get you beat. Because at some point you're going to run into a team that wants to defend all the time, and who do you think is going to win that game? So, yes, they probably are reacting, but, you know, they were butting heads. I mean, do you remember Jefferson Savarino? Holy cow. Do you remember at the end how he wasn't playing in road games? He wasn't even going on road trips.
Oh, yeah. What was that about, man?
So,
something about family. I think that's what they said to us. It was like his wife was mad or something.
I don't know everything about it. And his wife did get blamed, and maybe justifiably so, maybe not. I don't know that. And maybe some of it was him being a bit of a prima donna. And once he got away with it, then he wanted to get away with it again. I don't know. But I am sure it caused a rift in the team. And what happened was they were getting, and you can go back and look this up, they were getting decent results on the road, or excuse me, they were getting decent, okay results at home, but they were getting great results on the road. And so, you know, there's the number of people around the team has been growing. And I was able to talk to somebody who I thought would tell me the truth. And I just kind of pulled him aside. I said, no cameras, no microphones, just for my own edification here. It looks like when he's there, it's a little, but like on the road where it's supposed to be hard to win in MLS, not only are the scores great, not only are the results great, but like it looks great calling the game. And the problem with calling a game and then analyzing is you stare too much at the ball. There's so many things happening away from the ball, and they're so important, right? But you can't take your eye off the ball for very long when you're calling a game. And so I can see some stuff, but I'm sure I'm missing others. And it looks really good. The person looked at it and said, are they, and Savarino's not even going. I mean, like Chicho was brand new and to the team, and Chicho was going on the road trips and not starting and playing 20 minutes at the end of games off the bench because they had a lot of midweek and that they were playing twice a week for quite a bit. And I'm like, Chicho's not complaining. Are the guys? And the person leaned in and said, saying, bleep you, you bleep. I was like, whoa, that wasn't what I was going for. But sure. That was the source of a lot of, and there were a lot of veterans who didn't like that. It's like, hey, if I'm schlepping in this road trip, and if I'm being a good teammate, playing 20 minutes off the bench when I'd rather start, everybody else needs to suck it up too. And that's just, and there are multiple examples. I think it's hard to put 30 guys together and not end up with a couple guys with that attitude. And I think all you have to do is look at whatever job you work at. If there's 30 people employed there and like, do all 30 people pull their weight the same way? Do all 30 people?
Definitely not Jeff.
Work
especially Jeff with a G, not Jeff. That guy never pulls his weight.
Gosh, dude, he doesn't even spell his name right. Come on.
Friday afternoon at 2. I'm out. I think he's giving you. I think when Pablo tells you that, you're right. That is a little window to some of the stuff he's had to put up with in the past. And I mean, Chicho and Jefferson are two high-profile guys who scored a lot of goals. So the stories about them are more generally known. But I would think at any given time, you know, Pablo could go to any year and any part of any year and say, what happened with this guy? What happened with that guy? And I think it's one of the reasons that they moved some talented people on, because even though they got the talent, are they really there doing all the work?
Johnny
Russell. And then you see Justin Glad, and it's been here a long time.
Yeah.
And Pablo was so pumped with the way he played against Austin. he thought Justin Glad had a great game.
Well, so you bring that up. I think this is the rise of Justin Glad because I felt like he's kind of been in a slump, and I felt that Vera was kind of that issue. When Vera and him were trying to work things out centrally, it didn't look like they were really jiving. And now that he's in this 3-man back line, it's kind of more like, okay, I'm the captain now and I can thrive. And we're seeing a better Justin Glad because 2 years ago, he was having so many hiccups. Home games he was having hiccups, and that's just not acceptable.
Well, okay, let's go back to what you said. I'm the captain now. You got to sell that. I'm the captain now. Come on.
Sorry, man. I'm tired, dude.
I think that and it'd be interesting to ask him this sometime when he's a little more relaxed and not like the adrenaline's pumping and he's in the middle of everything. Maybe there's a bye week, where I can talk to him where it's a little, but it's like he got good, right? He's 20, 21, 22. He got good. And then at the end of the year, he'd sit, right? They'd pull him out of the biggest games. They didn't think he was quite there. It happened like 3-4 years in a row. And I think Freddie did it his first year and didn't realize, like, dude, you just hit the trigger, man. Everybody's got a trigger. And when you're new, you don't know what it is. Like, you just hit the trigger. What are you doing? And then I think there were some in uneven spots the last couple of years, but I don't think it's just a talent thing. I think it's also he knew he was getting to a point where, hey, I've been here a long time. And once you turn 25 in soccer, it's like, I'm not the kid, I'm the vet. I've got to deliver. And so for someone who is naturally a nice guy and a little more on the low key side, you got to be more vocal. You got to be the leader. And in tough times, you have it's not really his nature. So how does he find his voice? So he's still him. He does what needs to be done. He says what needs to be said, but he's still authentic because leaders have to be authentic, man. Nobody's following a phony. That just doesn't work. And so, I mean, he's 29 now. And what we're seeing is somebody over the last 3-4 years, the expectations at this point in his career are different, and he's figured them out. And maybe it is who he's playing next to. Maybe that's a part of it, and maybe it's as simple as, they've got an English speaking back line now. And maybe that helps to a degree, And the other thing is, like, Vera had the physique, but Vera was a young guy in his own right. And he was really good, but he was also 21 or 22 and in the biggest moments, and then there'd be a little macho and he'd lose his head and spit.
A little hot-headed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like,
I mean, we all want to spit on that guy, but you still can't do it, Boxing off the biggest punk in the league. Love to headbutt that guy myself, but
yeah. Wanting to is one thing, doing it's another.
Good point.
Okay, you dork.
Yeah.
So, and I think that goes back to the earlier conversation about, I think you can be a club that brings in some high level players if you have a culture of winning and you have a culture that fits their personality, where they can come in and they know that, hey, this club is going to support my level of talent and support me, and I can support them. And I think it all comes down to winning, like you said. But I think if they get back to that, where they bring in character people, and you can have somebody that can come in and say, hey, these guys all work hard, we're going to win, that can overcome a lot of the. You're never probably going to get some superstars to come to Salt Lake because I don't know if there's the scene is that hopping.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the Bruce Arena effect. Where that guy goes, he has his guys and they follow him there. And the other club doesn't really want them when they're gone, when they're done, because they know they're kind of Bruce's guys anyway. So they just pass them along to Bruce when he leaves, because they're his guys. They're his character guys, if you will.
Yeah, that matters to him. There's no doubt about it. He wants guys. I also think it's not so much about the scene in Salt Lake. I think it's raw numbers that people like Zlatan need a big stage. And, this just isn't media market 1 or 2. And Zlatan isn't going to media market 5. Houston and Dallas are huge. That stage is not big enough. Philly's huge. Stage isn't big enough. Zlatan was going to LA or New York. Maybe a little different with Messi. I think culturally, Miami's an international city. He's an international star, but it's still a super short list of places that Messi was going to go, right? And obviously they've got Beckham there, and that's part of it too. But Beckham was going to LA. Beckham's not, So that when I hear Jason Christ say, and it made me a little nervous, to be honest, when he said, well, maybe we can win differently. I'm like, well, how differently? You do have to win differently because you can't win with Zlatan and you can't win with Beckham and you can't win with Messi because you can't get them to come here. And honestly, you can't even get Carlos Vela to come here. So you do have to win differently, but don't try to win like the club was trying to win in 2018 or 2021 or, back in 2015, because then they weren't fully invested. And you've got to have a couple of big money players. And to circle back to your first question, I don't think the Millers are done. I think another big money player is coming. Now, along the way, they got to figure out the business side. They need to make those real estate deals around the stadium happen. And they need to figure out how to put permanent luxury suites where they put those temporary kind of PGA Tour type pop-ups up, which is, it's fine for this year because they got to capitalize on the Messi game. So they've got to do whatever they can. They got to capitalize on it. They have to capitalize on that. But in the long run, and maybe this will help them decide, what the market is like and what they need to put there. So maybe they'll get a little information here that'll help them. But hey, they're going to have to do something to raise more money because the cost of poker is going to keep going up, and they need another $6 million player. And ultimately, you may find out the $6 million players don't get it done in this league. You got to go in $10 and $15 million players. Now, it's not going to be, some of the bigger leagues. They're not going to have $25 million players, or if so, you're not going to have them here. So that's where I think Christ has a strong point. You can spend more money and you need to, but don't think you're going to spend as much money as the top 2 or 3 teams because that's probably not realistic.
The stuff in the stadium, I was kind of a little hesitant when I saw them putting the temporary seats in the north end zone, and then not end zone, north end. Sorry, I'm old. And but then when you get there, I thought that you can tell they're temporary, but I thought those extra seats added something to the stadium. I thought making it more of a bowl, so it just kind of doesn't flatten out up there.
Right, because if you fill that bowl up, the water flows out right there. No, I get you, bro.
No, I felt it added something to the
like the ambiance.
Your milk and cereal
it feel more like
that brings up a good subject. Whatever happened to indoor fountains? You know what I mean? They used to sell those things like early 2000s. Everybody had an indoor fountain, and now it's all gone, like water beds.
They went out with the malls.
Oh my gosh, man!
I thought it added to the stadium, and it made it a little more. I thought menacing. I thought the atmosphere was a little more menacing.
Ooh, really?
A little more.
Like we're enveloping them.
It's more people to make more noise. And then it's also something to hold the noise in instead of it escaping at both ends.
I had a point.
Yeah. And the only thing that surprised me is that they didn't have anything over there in the
south side,
southeast. Especially
there's open space there.
And maybe and maybe after the bye week, we'll come back and there'll be something there. It might be in the plans. I haven't asked anybody. The other thing I think is that, this will date me. There was a time the LA Coliseum had a track around it for the 1984 Olympics. And when the Raiders went in there for a decade, they dug the track out and they dug down and they built the stadium down lower and made a smaller field. This stadium here in Sandy was built for rugby, so it's wide. It's really wide, and they've got that concrete around the edge. I think they could dig down, and I think they could put in field level boxes, the kind you see in San Jose.
That'd be.
I think there's a chance to do that. So I think you're going to see the build out in phases. They're going to redo the media stuff, and we're all going to be sad about losing our seats. Within 20 yards of midfield, right? So that will get redone. I think they'll redo the north end. But if something goes in the southeast corner and if something goes down on the lower field level, I don't know exactly what it'll look like. I haven't heard anything there, but I think that we could see. I think we could see where much as the Delta Center is getting redone over 3 summers, I could see where this gets redone over 3 years. And I think it's going to have to be done in pieces because I think this new schedule, this new calendar is going to leave a little bit of time to work in the winter and a little bit of time to work in the summer. But they're not going to have what they have at the Delta Center where they have like a 4-month gap they can go to town. I don't think the stadium is going to be dark for 4 months at a time. So, they've got the NWSL games in there. They'll have to work around that, and maybe they'll do something in June. And maybe we'll just be in there and we'll watch them while they work. which is what I'm watching. I'm
Dallas.
watching it.
Dallas, yeah.
Dallas went through that.
It's a
Wrexham
mess.
is going through that. It's just super common. So they'll just work, and you deal with a little reduced capacity in the short run, so you get something better in the long run.
So, how do you feel about Wrexham? Do you feel that Wrexham is probably the best English league
team
of all time? Do you feel that they are successful?
What do you guys do?
Well,
What are you doing?
They like to wind me up.
So the reason why is this guy has this love for this Crawley Town. So see this flag behind his head? It's Crawley Town FC. It's a very small team that's not doing so hot right now. They got promoted and then they got relegated. But so we always bring up Wrexham because Wrexham was literally
played them twice that year
in the same league, or if not below
them,
and then shortly passed him up while he's in love with Crawley Town. So I was just curious if you felt that Wrexham was a great team or not.
It's a great story, if nothing else, right?
It's a great story. If and I do follow it. And RSL is the reason I follow it. I came home from an RSL game, and it was a late game. It was probably a road game on the West Coast, and my wife had gone to sleep, and we're empty nesters now. And it was late, but I'm wound up, so I do what guys do. I turn on the TV. I know there's experts that'll tell you, well, screen time leads to
you got to make sure you
lower
have your
quality sleep. And
proper
I'm like,
glasses for the blue light. Yeah.
Well, whatever. And then I'm just channel flicking like a fool because, of course, it's late and there isn't much on by the time you get home after a West Coast game, right? And so just and I hit this like, what is this? What am I watching here? And I think it was like episodes. They were running like episodes 6, 7, 8, 9 all in a row one night. It wasn't a hit yet, but it had been out there. I didn't get it at the start. And I was kind of intrigued. And then I was interested. And then there was a little more. And I was like, And I happened to come in at the point where they were mucking up because the first season was a year and a half. And so they bought the club. Rob and Ryan bought the club mid-season, and it went right down to the last game if they were going to make the playoffs or not. And they didn't, and there was a red card, and they followed the guy into the locker room, and he's breaking furniture and screaming because he knows he's lost his job.
Yeah.
He knows a bunch of his friends are going to lose the job, and he knows the coach is going to lose the job. I mean, we laughed. It was high stakes in those people's lives, and it was real, and it was raw. And I always love the NFL films, and they mic players up and shoot stuff in the locker. I love that stuff. And so I got drawn in, and I remember setting the tape, and I watched more, and then I told my wife about it, and we went and watched the start, and I've watched it ever since. I do think it's oversold as far it's Cinderella. How could this little Welsh club? And they don't tell it. They're telling their own documentary. I mean, kind of sort of journalism because they have told some good stories. But they've also left some stuff out. And one of the things they left out is Rob and Ryan are pumping cash into this thing, and they're outspending the entire National League, and they damn well better get promoted. And those guys, when they're like, dude, just got to go up, and they're walking across the field, there's another ending to this story. There's one where the club goes up and we're the heroes, and they're the ones where we're the fools and we're the goats. We're the villains. We're the villains, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, it is sports. They did have to do it, and they did it, and they had to save a penalty, and it was craziness. And I watched when they lost in the playoff, and Robin Ryan's first year. So the first 2 years they outspent. I think the thing that's really interesting about this year they're not outspending. Like last year, Birmingham spent the most money, and they spent the second most money, and Birmingham finished first, and they finished second. And I know some people are going nuts. Well, they're just outspending. I'm like, did Man City and Chelsea not buy their way to the top? Do we remember when they weren't one of the big four and now they're one of the big six?
How much oil did they have to
next year and they're one of the
Middle
big five?
Yeah.
What if Wrexham goes up, right? Well, you know who goes down.
My wife's favorite team.
Tottenham. Good night now.
Tottenham. See you later, baby.
Good night, Spurs. Yeah, Steve Nash is crying somewhere.
Nice bird. That's not what you
So
said. You said nice bird?
I said Steve Nash is crying somewhere. Steve Nash is a Spurs fan. Yeah. I think that what's interesting about Wrexham is this year, I think they're in the bottom third of the championship in terms of revenue, in terms of the money they're spending, and yet they're in sixth place. This is the first time they've really outpunched their weight. So that is intriguing. And I have a friend who's following it. He used to live in Utah, but he's moved back to San Diego to take care of parents now. And we text because he's sick. He gets up and watch games. I do radio 5 mornings a week, man. I'm not getting up to watch sports on Saturday and Sunday morning. I'm sleeping. But he gets up And I'll wake up and there's already text from him about the scores. And I'm like, well, clearly they're going to get promoted in 26. Clearly they're going to qualify for Europe in 27. And clearly they're going to win the Champions League in 28. And then Robin Ryan can sell at the very top. And that's the end of it. And he's like, that'd be 3 great seasons in the documentary, you know? I think what Robin Ryan need to be credited for is they hired really good soccer people and they've gotten out of the way. Mm-hmm. And I think we've all rooted for teams, whatever the sport, where people didn't get out of the way and they mucked everything up, right? They just messed everything up. And then the other thing is they really invested in the documentary. Like there's a lot of cameras, a lot of editing. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time. And they've leveraged it. Hey, they're selling that sponsor across the front of the jersey, man. You want to put, they've gone from, I think it was a local trailer company. And now they've got international airlines. Like, yes, people who are flying from one continent to another need to know we exist. Let's go buy Wrexham shirt.
Yeah,
like,
TikTok. Okay. Was it TikTok?
Yeah, TikTok had a big one too.
TikTok did it. United Airlines. I mean, they're not messing around. They got people with real money.
And they've won Emmys.
Right. They have.
Did they really?
I mean, let's face it. These two guys know showbiz. That's the part of this equation that's in their wheelhouse. But that they were able to leverage that, there's nothing stopping any MLS team from doing the same kind of thing. Or as the NFL gets more popular, somebody in the NFL could try to do it and do a documentary around the world and make themselves more popular in Barcelona and London and Melbourne, wherever they're going to play next, you know. And you sell more jerseys, you sell more merchandise, you make more money to keep feeding the beast.
I heard that and I saw that they were looking at a Brazilian team, like a Brazilian team like in the 4th level there. That has a similar with Wrexham, has a name and doing the same thing there, looking at that. But have you ever watched Sunderland Till I Die?
I have not. I've heard about it. There's a documentary for a team in Mexico, and I'm forgetting which one now, and I watched a couple episodes. Somebody in Hollywood bought somebody down there and tried the same thing, but the storytelling wasn't as good. It lost me. To the point, I think it was Necaxa.
I think I've heard that, Necaxa. But Sunderland Till I Die is older than, it was out before the Wrexham stuff.
I should go find that.
And it is fascinating because they end up getting relegated twice. But now that, you know, they're back in the Premier League. But that is a fantastic one. It really gets to the heart of more of the heart of the way people follow soccer in England versus, you know, this Wrexham thing, which is fantastic story. But
it's primarily a U.S. thing.
Yeah.
It seems like over there they don't love it as much. And it's creating a little animosity, but I'm sure Wrexhamites don't care.
No.
Why would they?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And they've done a good job.
Be jealous of us.
that part of Wales, they talked that they bought that club. They came close to buying a couple other clubs. They were looking at a lot of clubs, but they thought this part of the country is underrepresented. And so the whole basin of fans, not just the town, but when you look at the region, the geographic area, you know, they had a lot of people to draw from. And of course there's jealousy. And of course people are worried because everybody over there's got a team. They've zoomed past a lot of teams and they're threatening another group of teams.
Yeah. They're passing the Swanseas. They're the biggest team in Wales now.
If you win a lot, there's going to be jealousy. There's no way around it.
So what has been, get back to RSL.
Okay.
What has been the most surprising thing for you so far this season?
That the young players have actually been able to finish and score goals and win games, and not just score a goal, but then, you know, blunders at the other end and lose 2-1, even though they scored a great goal in transition. Number one, they've scored the goals, and there's been multiple guys who've done it. Number two, they've made it stand up, and they've gotten results. And there's no way I thought, when I saw how their lineup was shaping up to start the season, I was like, this is going to look like the start of last year. And there's
like goes on outside back. What?
That one I had hope for, but I didn't know. But, you know, so wait, Olatunji's hurt. Who starts up top? Well, we got this kid who was at UCLA last year.
Oh boy.
Oh, he doesn't even look like he's from college the previous year.
I know.
That guy looks like we got him in Europe. Like he is good.
Solans is good. No doubt about it. And this goes back to they have done well shopping in the bargain basement, whatever that looks like. Mekanelli in the draft out of Cornell, now hitting on Solans out of UCLA and Oregon State.
They're like the Macklemores of MLS.
And I have to think, I think we've gone too far here without praising everybody at the academy. And Tony Beltran's the biggest name, so he gets most of it. But I think we talked to Tony. Tony would then start listing 5 or 6 more people who needed credit.
Yeah.
But the academy produced guys for a while. The group that was there, 2010 to 2015, coming of age, Justin Glad is the biggest name out of that group, but they probably produced a half dozen guys or so who could play.
Aaron, Brooks, all those guys. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then there was a dry spell and really not much, right? And the Monarchs were treated more as veterans and can you get them to win and sell tickets and is it a revenue source? And so it all kind of dried up and it's a pipeline. So you got to invest and it takes time for it to pay off. And I was told Ezra Khan would be good. And people tell you that and you're like, okay, but he's going to be 18. How good can he be? Like, well, he's been really good. They were right. He's been really good. But I'm surprised that they have done what they've done out of the gate here with 9 points out of a possible 12. And in retrospect, that 1-0 loss at Vancouver actually looks pretty good because they were competitive and Vancouver is mostly blowing teams out. And at one time, Vancouver didn't look good. They got smoked at home by Seattle in the Champions Cup, but the only team to beat Seattle this year is RSL. So I think the thing that probably is most worrisome right now is they're clearly looking for answers at defensive midfield. I don't know, but I suspect we're going to see a third starter in 5 games there. And they have given up 5 goals, and that's a problem because to be truly elite, that's too many goals. If you're giving up 5 or 6 goals right now, you're middle of the Western Conference a month into the season. And you can go in, click around, use MLS's homepage, and you can list everyone, goals allowed, and you can click on that and look. And like the bottom 5 teams, 3 of them have given up 7 goals, I think, 2 of them have given up 11. And the best teams are all on like 0, 1, and 3. So it's been a great start, and it's far outstripped my expectations, but it's never perfect, and you got to keep readjusting the bar if you really want to get up to the top. And so it's like, guys, we're good. And at times we're very good, but we're not great, and we're not going to be great until we give up fewer goals per game. Here's what's happening with other teams. How do we match them?
Yeah, and it's interesting because you see the way Caliscan plays that position, and you see the way he fit in with Moisa, and you see the way he fit in with Dylan this week, and you're like, okay, there's still some missing, and then Stein comes in and does what he did in the game, and you're like, well, maybe there's the answer because he's got a shot. Right?
Well, so I was going to bring that up because I felt that Stein actually, when he had the ball before he scored the game winner, he didn't want to touch the ball. His style was, you pass to me, I'm immediately passed to my outlet. Like there was no like taking ownership, and I was kind of frustrated because I was like, oh, this is going to be another big signing that's just not ready to just go all in. And then luckily he got that beautiful goal. But I'm a little scared about his position.
Yeah, right? Is he the guy that just doesn't want to hold the ball, or is he the guy that loves the ticky-tacky, right? Like it's hard to know.
Yeah.
After that little bit of a game.
Yeah, it's a really small sample size to say anything dramatic. The cool thing about a guy who moves the ball, and the reason I think Pablo would love that is Pablo is of the theory we want to attack direct. But if they're not going to let us attack direct, and if they're going to drop back, we got to run them side to side and wear them out. And you got to do it with real purpose, and you got to switch the point of attack quickly. So it is fun to watch a player take the ball and turn and run at somebody and beat them. And we all love that. And the whole stadium, ooh, whenever it happens, right? When Hezar Khan's working his magic down there on the end line in the south end. I mean, the stadium, whoa! And we're all thinking, that's not a fluke. He did that. He did that Tuesday at training out in Harriman. That's his deal. But I do think in that defensive midfield position, part of Kyle Beckerman's magic, always changing the point of attack, And I thought even at the World Cup level in 2014, it's like Kyle wasn't flashy, but they kept getting results. And then when they sat him and they lost, but it's constantly changing the point of attack and making somebody run, making decisions with a purpose in the 10th minute and the 20th minute and the 30th minute, thinking, I'm going to make that guy run another 70-yard sprint. I'm going to make him run sideline to sideline and 40 yards that way. Now 40 yards back the other. Now 60 yards upfield when I finally, unlock the defense here after we've switched sides a couple times. And it may not pay off in a goal then, but it's going to pay off deeper in the game. And nobody remembers early or credits that early. But if you really know what's going on in the locker room, they talk about it. And if you've ever had to run like that, I think you do appreciate that that's happening. So we'll have to see if he does that with purpose or if he's doing that to avoid, having to do other things. It's kind of his excuse, kind of a cop out. I don't want to say anything after 9 minutes, but I do think he's going to get a start and get a look. Well, I mean, I just don't know that Griffin Dillon's going to be healthy. So that would remove him right away. Yeah. And as much as we all like Moisa, we were judging him because he's 17. We went in with no expectations, if I can just speak for you guys. And then we were surprised by how good he was in Vancouver. And obviously he started against Seattle and they won. But you do think players young guys will probably play better at home than on the road. But I thought he really struggled against Atlanta for multiple reasons, partly because the way Atlanta with the high press, and they were defending him with numbers, and it was rough. And that's the reason the transition game was open. It's the reason they beat Atlanta in transition, because Atlanta was just such a high line and just pushing forward with no regard for anything else. But it made it hard on Luka, and he comes out at halftime, and we haven't seen him since. So
and you're playing against Miguel Almiron, so take that into account just a little bit. Yeah, but he's not that level.
Atlanta was numbers up in the midfield on purpose, right? And Morgan, that's why one of the reasons I love Morgan is he recognized that and he went there to help. Let's not leave these guys on an island. Let's try to overload somewhere and give ourselves a chance to build out of there. And then pretty soon it was just like, go deep, man. Just go deep. Find Hezekani in behind. Let's go.
Quentin with the sniper balls lately. Holy cow.
Yeah, Quentin he's very surprisingly played well.
Yeah, they're leaving up so many channels with him. Sorry, side note. Go ahead.
But he's leaving them a little bit in the back too. Feels like he's got to stay tight, right? He's not going to chase balls down in the corner, which is kind of more his strength anyway, right? Mm-hmm.
I think Gozo has said Gozo is finding his voice at 18. Philip Quinton played a couple of really good balls to Gozo late in the game, but before he did, there was one time Gozo went and Philip turned and played it back to Glad instead. And I do watch the ball a lot, but I did see that, and I saw Gozo throw up his arms like
he's like, "Come on, man!
I am going to go with the giraffe after the game. I'm going at the giraffe."
Oh, dude, I love.
But then he couldn't say anything. Because then Philip played him he played a couple of really good 60-yard balls after that. So it's like, well, you can't get what you want every time.
Well, yeah. So that brings up a good point, because Gozo seems to be. He's like he's our offense, he's our defense, and he's doing more than any other player as far as their position and their role. Like, I feel like Gozo's going above and beyond. Do you feel that if Gozo were to be taken out, that we would have the same success with any of our other players?
I don't even like that you spoke that aloud. I think your microphone should be taken away right now. You guys reach over and just rip that thing away from you.
Right? Knocking on this artificial wood. There we go.
Well, I don't think you saying anything or you knocking on the artificial wood is going to have anything to do with it. I think if he keeps playing this well, I've heard there's already interest from Europe. Typically, the way this works in sports, and I knew about it first with the Jazz, and then I came, and it's the exact same thing in soccer. This is just human behavior. The first offers, they're always trying to rip you off. When Andre Kirilenko burst out in Utah 25 years ago, Kevin O'Connor said, "Oh, yeah, we're getting trade offers." I looked at him, "Would you trade him?" And he says, "Well, I mean, you trade anybody as long as LeBron's in the league. So would I trade him?" He says, "Will I trade him now?" Right now, everybody's offering second-round draft picks and trying to rip me off. And from what I've heard, there have been some stunningly low offers from Gozo. And it's basically they're giving the old John McEnroe, "You cannot be serious," and the click, So come back. But everybody's got a price tag. So when do people come back with $5 million? When do they come back with $8 million? When do they come back with 10, 12, or 15? How good does he get, and where does this go? He's not there yet. He's got to get there. But I mean, that goal in Atlanta, Pablo Mastroeni calling his shot again, saying he's going to be way better this year because he's got a left foot. He was too predictable. And then I interviewed Gozo, and Gozo says I was too predictable. I worked on my left foot every single day in the offseason. That was a focus. That was a goal. And I knew I could do it, but it still felt good to get that reward against Atlanta. But there's no doubt in his mind he can do it again. And there's stuff going on behind the scenes. Players know what's going on because not only does the club get calls, but their agents get calls. And then the agent tells the player. And I have heard established people in the organization joke with Gozo about going to Europe. And it stunned me that they would talk like that in front of me. And it wasn't during an official session, so I don't give anybody up. But, it stunned me, but it also told me, number one, they really believe in his maturity and his focus, or they wouldn't joke around and bring it up. And also, everybody knows how the world works. Andres Gomez got moved midseason, and Pablo Mastroeni got questioned about it directly. Is it a big loss? Because it looks like Andres the last month or two hasn't been as good, and he hasn't been as sharp. It's like, well, he knew he was going to Europe. The offers were coming in. They were enormous. It was just a matter of time. He says if the club didn't move him in this window, then the offers were going to be huge in the next window. He was never going to play for us in September or October, November, the way he played in February, March, and April, because he was chasing something, and like the proverbial dog catching that wooden rabbit at the dog track is like, oh, this isn't a real rabbit. I'm done. I've done it. So, all that's got to be factored in. Hopefully Gozo keeps his eye on the prize because there could be a lot out there for him. My gosh. I mean, he's 18 and I just think we're all seeing the leadership thing, right? It's like, guys, lean on me. We need something to happen and I can make it happen. If I don't make it happen and score a goal, I can make it happen for somebody else because I'm willing to pass the ball and I'll make the run to open up space underneath for Diego Luna. So,
well, and I thought it was really interesting. I know you were there, David, when we had him, when he made his debut. Him and Kai both came up. It was like an emergency come up from the minor leagues, basically, and they threw them both in that game. And just watching the difference of the way that those two guys behaved in that game was staggering.
Yeah,
Goza was there to help elevate the team, and Kai was there to try to get a goal. You know what I mean? And you could just see it in the way they played. We talked about that at length. And you were like, that's amazing. And now Kai's not in the league and Gozo's pushing for next level.
Yeah. Pablo Mastroeni last year was really complimentary of Gozo. He said, he's playing well. The numbers, the goals and assists aren't coming the way everybody wants, but he's a young guy, so that shouldn't be totally surprising. But he said the key is when he loses the ball, or when someone else loses the ball, it doesn't matter. He turns around and works his ass off to get it back. He said the work rate he puts into defense. One thing Pablo said last year, even though it was a tough year, was that Diego Luna and Xavier Gozo never stopped competing on the defensive side of the ball. And Luna's still a young guy. He's still 22, right? And they don't take any time off on the defensive side of the ball. And I think once we saw Olatunji, he's an intimidating presence and he likes to defend. And honestly, it shocks me that more players don't want to. It's like, if you don't want to defend, that just makes you human. I don't know anybody who's like soccer players who are like, oh, I really hope I can defend. Well, do you know any basketball or hockey players who are like, man, I really don't want the puck. I don't want the ball. I want to defend. The only way you get to stop defending is to defend well and win the ball or the puck back. So guys, and Olatunji talks about, well, yeah, I'll defend. Plus, if I can win the ball back 30 yards from goal with nobody between me and the goalkeeper, what are the odds I'm going to score? Right? That is so factually true. You wish more people would embrace it. And they don't, but that just makes Gozo and Luna and Olatunji stand out and gives me hope for what RSL might be able to pull off this season.
David, we always enjoy talking to you, and we don't want to keep you too long. But I do have one last question, and not going to say that's the last question. I'm sure these guys have. I don't want to cut them off. Prepare your last question, or how many questions you got. But for me, one of the things that I've been thinking about with this club, how does RSL change the narrative, change the way the season goes? Because the knock for a Pablo-based team is that they start hot, they start well, they play well into the summer, and then after that, it is a gentle, sometimes not so gentle decline toward the playoffs. How does that scenario change this season for?
Pablo's already said it. He's talked about the process and all that. That's
David.
Oh, sorry. I was just like, sports psychology. I could do all this. Sorry, go ahead.
So I've heard Pablo talk about sports psychology.
He jerked, dude.
It sounds better when Gandhi says it, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds a lot better.
I think that's a factor. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I think that there's also been other things every year. You know, one year they slumped because they lost Gomez, and Chicho had all kinds of off-field problems, which were only starting to be heard publicly. We didn't know the full story of it, but obviously it was a massive distraction, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that them being not dependent on the summer window is critical. One thing Pablo always says is you need a training camp to really get guys locked in, to really get the details. Olatunji, I thought, performed well given how little time he had to adjust last year. But bringing someone in for just 7 games and thinking you're going to click at the end of the year, that's not going to work. And the year before that, they moved Gomez. It was never going to be the same without him. So I think we know exactly why these last 2 teams fell off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do think there's something to the psychology. Yes, it can. I mean,
do you think it will this year?
I have no idea. I mean, if Gozo goes off, right? If Gozo puts up Andres Gomez type numbers, he's probably going to get Andres Gomez type offers. And is the club going to walk away from that? If you can sell a player for $12 million and go out and get 2 $6 million players, that'd be a wise business move. So I can see why you would do it. And you know what else you would do? You'd probably wreck the end of the 2026 season, realistically, right? So is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And I don't know. There's too many variables. I also think that this year is going to be different because teams get worn down. And Pablo reminds me in a lot of regards, not just of covering the Jazz with Quinn Snyder, which I know has been noted at the highest levels of the Larry H. Miller organization, because they dealt with Quinn Snyder, but he reminds me of Jerry Sloan. And the thing with Jerry Sloan was always, hey, other teams are at 50% in the regular season. They go to 100% for the playoffs. But Jerry has got his team at 90% in the regular season. They can't really turn it on and turn it up. They don't have that much to go to get to 100%. I think that's been a little bit of it as well with Pablo. I also think that you find that RSL's strength in the past, because they weren't spending big money, was their strength was their depth. And so when they excelled was early in the year when they had to play twice a week, either because there were MLS games or there was Open Cup or there was Leagues Cup. That's when they tore it up. Mm-hmm. But when it was once a week and now it's your best 11 against their best 11, you don't have the same advantage because they've paid their top strikers and you haven't paid yours. Well, now they are. So maybe that will give them an advantage. And then the other thing is, I think the end of the year in MLS, there's just a little bit of coin flip to it. Go back and look at playoff series and look at how many times top seeds go down. And so that whole narrative of like, well, you weren't as good at the end of the year. Yeah. How did Atlanta sneak in as a 9 seed and knock out Messi? That happened a couple of years ago. How did a totally mediocre Atlanta team eliminate Messi? I mean, Miami. How did they eliminate Miami?
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
The Miami Messis, we all know it is.
Apple, Miami.
Inter, Messi,
yeah,
Miami.
all the same thing.
The Miami Apple Messis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a little bit the nature of that. And then also you see so many of these playoff series. First off, there shouldn't be playoff series. They had the perfect format, single elimination. I hope they go back to it.
Yes.
I totally believe we're sitting here at March Madness. College basketball, you sit down, you watch a game for 2 hours, and there's a winner and a loser, and somebody's crying, and someone's jumping around. I was watching with my wife the other night, and she was devastated because UVU, I told her, UVU's never been to the NCAA tournament, right? If they win this game, they go, and they miss a dunk to force overtime with 2 seconds left, right? She's like, oh, that poor kid. He's sitting on the floor, and he's got the jersey over his head, and it's like that kind of raw emotion. Well, the best of 3 robs you of that. Soccer had it, and this MLS needs to stick with it. And also, I think it makes home field more valuable. It makes the regular season more valuable because home field's more valuable because you don't have to go on the road. You don't have to win 2 home games. You just have the 1. So I hope they go back to that format. But that is part of the reason the team seemed to unravel a little bit down the stretch. Because as much as they've struggled down the stretch, they've also won big games on the last day of the season to get in the playoffs. So sometimes we kind of set that aside.
Well said. Yeah.
Psychology.
What's your favorite last question?
So you've had a pretty good career. I mean, would you say you've had a pretty good career?
Yeah, I don't want to complain about it. It's worked out pretty well.
It's worked out pretty well.
Worked out pretty well. I don't want to, again, yeah.
When you go in and you go to do your job, it seems that you are kind of like the $6 million player when you walk into the.
I'd like that to be true. Did you buy a TV or a radio station or something?
No,
you want to pay a podcaster. You want to pay a podcaster $6 million? I'm your guy.
I just got a VCR. It's okay.
I got data bags.
But when you go in and you develop your questions and you come in at it with a point of view, like how do you construct your thoughts and your questions to a point where anyone can take those questions and give great answers? Because you seem to have that type of skill.
Well, thank you. Don't think I haven't asked some crazy questions along the way, because I have. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing that really helps me in the RSL post games is that Pablo is so open with the media. So he's told me so much about the team. I try to go to training every Tuesday. I try to go to the Friday trainings before home games. Road games, they travel, so it's kind of it's a different schedule on Fridays. I don't always make it, but he will tell you a lot about the team, and he's super open. And so then you watch the game and like, well, did I see what I want to see? He's told me a lot of his principles about soccer. So do they get supported or do they get violated? I try to ask why questions. You have to be careful to, I've asked him some questions this year where I said, instead of the player's name, and we were specifically talking about Hezarkhani and that movie pulled off on Tuesday with all the media standing on the railing in Harriman, and we were all howling like a bunch of 15-year-olds at a JV high school game. Oh, yeah. Dude, posterized. Ah. But when I asked him about it, like, don't mention the player's name, because the other player was trying to defend, and he was caught a little out of position because of stuff that had happened in the buildup, but he was working really hard. And he's not playing, and don't humiliate him, right?
Oh, yeah, especially that guy. Mm-hmm.
Well, but really anybody, but okay, yeah, that guy. And it's not fair. It's not fair, and it's going to wreck things, and all they're going to do is close practice. So, keep that in mind, right? But it's like, does Hezarkhani do that all the time, right? And so there are these guys, what is the storyline? And I always try to think about, there's just some imaginary fan sitting 15 rows up. What do they want to know? Right.
Oh, yeah.
And right. And we know injuries cripple teams. So how come? That's why I asked the question I asked at the end about Philip Quinton. We know injuries cripple teams, and we know that putting someone in a back three who can't hold up their end of the bargain is going to leave you wide open, right? You're not defending with numbers. It's like, man, you're out there. You make a mistake out there, like everybody sees it. Everybody's looking, right? And they've won all 3 games Philip has started. So I think, that is why I asked that question. That's the storyline. Honestly, I try to go down there with 10 or 12 questions. I don't actually like it when I go first, because I know I don't get to ask 12 questions in a row, and I'm not sure what everyone else is going to ask. Other people ask good questions too. Don't think that when someone else goes first, I'm not checking off the list. Okay, now I don't have to ask about that.
Yeah, let them do the obvious stuff. I'll take the real journalist questions, is what you're thinking.
Well, I mean, some are obvious, but some are not. It's only obvious if you've thought about it, right?
Right.
And they're not all. So I love other people going and because I know I can ask 4 questions. And so if you check off 8 or 9 of them, now I'm down to the last 3 or 4. If I'd gone first, I probably wouldn't have asked about Philip Quinton. I probably wouldn't have gone there, I mean, you got to ask about the game-winning goal. I mean, when I go first, I'm going to ask the obvious question too. You've got to. So I think it's following the team over a long period of time. What do fans want to know? Try to stay away from the gotcha stuff, because that just makes them defensive, and they shut down and they don't ask questions. So you got to be careful about, trying to embarrass the person who is up there. And a lot of times people want to tell their story. So try to ask why questions, why. I saw this, I saw that, why, we don't know what the game plan is. We don't know how they're trained. We don't know what sometimes we know what they're told in training based on how the wind is blowing. Sometimes you can hear something from 80 yards away, and then the wind's blowing another way and you can't hear the person standing next to you. So that's always up in the air, depending on the weather out in Harriman.
Mhm.
But people usually want to tell their story. If you stick with why questions and you ask them in a flat tone of voice that isn't accusatory,
Judgmental or anything like
or
that. Yeah.
judgmental, right? Then you can get a pretty good answer out of somebody if they want to speak. Some coaches don't want to speak, some don't. But you got to listen, because sometimes even when people are having tantrums, they're still telling you the truth. That LAFC snow game, and RSL wins 3-0 2 years ago, right? And they bring out the orange ball, and they had the stoppage, and the game's delayed. And then when they restart, it starts snowing. And LAFC just comes in, and they're mad. Man, Trundle he's pissed, right?
But he also said it's good to go. Like, he has to say yes.
I know. So remember that moment. That's a moment we all remember. How does that apply to future storylines? Well, a year later, it really goes public and starts picking up heat. They're talking about flipping the season. I'm like, okay, but LAFC is going to have to go to Salt Lake. They're going to have to go to Denver. Costa Rica went to Denver once. I think we all remember that game, right?
The snow game.
They were. Oh yeah, the Costa Ricans were super happy leaving Colorado. They couldn't have been in a better mood. You're going to have to go to Minnesota. You're going to go to Toronto and Chicago and Columbus and Cincinnati, Kansas City, St. Louis too. I mean, sing it, people. Let's go. So I think you just got to cover it over time. And try to remember the high moments and to see where the story overlaps, because it tends to all the time. And I see it overlapping between sports because I've had to cover so many sports, and between personalities. It's why I hear Pablo start talking and thinking, Quinn Snyder said that, Jerry Sloan said that, Lavelle Edwards said that. You hear it more and more over time.
Nice. My last question is, I think it's a gift that you have to make the radio entertaining, and I want to kind of have you do two things. Number one, if you wouldn't tell people how to fix their Apple TV so they can hear you, and number two, talk about how you guys do the broadcast, how you play off each other, and what that sounds like now versus before with Dunny.
So the difference between TV and radio is really big. And unfortunately, there's so many games on TV now, which is great for me as a sports fan, but I think it's bad for me as a radio consumer, because a lot of people doing radio haven't grown up hearing radio. They've grown up hearing TV, and the networks really contribute to this. ESPN will bump their number 2 NFL person, over to a radio broadcast, and it's just not the same. You've really got to paint a picture on radio. The radio broadcast is more about the play-by-play guy and less about the analyst. And TV is way more about the analyst and much less about the play-by-play person. And when I started doing play-by-play, number one, I talk too much. And number two,
way. Not a chance. There's no way.
100%. And number two, you just don't have to be descriptive. They can see it. And I started watching games, and I saw a lot of different people with a lot of different styles, multiple leagues. I wasn't getting up to watch the first EPL broadcast at 4:30 in the morning on that, but I was watching like the 8 a.m., 10 a.m. kind of windows, right?
Yeah.
And I was watching Bundesliga, and I was watching other stuff, and there were lots of different styles. But the one that appealed to me as a viewer, like, I can see the game, but you know what I don't know is I flip through all these teams, like, I don't know who the players are. And you have to shoot the game wide. The producer and director, man, American directors in the early days of TV, they took heat because they were constantly cutting in tight where you can't see the field and you can't see the options. And you can't second guess where the ball should go and where the next pass should be, because what does that lead to or not lead to? And so when you shoot it that wide, you got to identify. And that's what I tried to, over time on TV, I thought, identify the player, one name, and for the people who are multitasking, because believe it or not, a lot of people multitask while they watch games, your tone and inflection has to convey, hey, turn around, look up, something's building here, right? And then occasionally, if there were time, I would throw in somebody and something that was happening off the ball to help people watch off the ball. But mostly it was set up Dunny. Why are we seeing what we're seeing? When Jay recaps a goal, it's very different than Dunny, because Dunny will give you the why on TV, but it happens so fast, I can only describe some of what happened on the radio. So Jay, instead of stepping in with a why, tends to step in with more of the what and be more descriptive. And the stuff that, just for brevity's sake, because it happens so fast, he'll describe a little bit more. Was the keeper to one side of the goal or the other? Was he caught leaning? Was he out of position? Did he have to be at the near post? Whoever took the shot saw the space to the far post. I don't have time to describe all that. It's happening way too fast. I mean, put a clock on that first RSL goal against Austin. You got a guy in Caliscan popping up at a place that he's not supposed to be on the field. And I asked about that because Pablo has said he wants more of that. He wants the defensive midfielders inside the 18. And there he was, essentially inside the 6. I mean, he was to the side, but he was within 6 yards of the end line. So that was why I asked him that, because earlier Pablo had said, our guys aren't there and I want them there. We need more numbers in the box. From the second he runs onto that ball, which was perfectly weighted, he whips that ball in front off the kneecap and in, and that happened so fast. I mean, what can you say in a second and a half? So I have to talk more on radio. I've talked less on TV. Jay's really got to pick his spots. But what I have learned on radio that I wasn't good at when I started on radio, I've gotten better at, is I worry less about the ball pinging around in the middle of the field. And I just got to count on Jay to lay out if he starts to see an advantage, even 30, 40 yards from goal. Because the ball can be 40 yards from goal with no chance to score, with no advantage. The team can be sitting there, the defensive team can be sitting there in 2 blocks of 4 and completely have everything under control. But you can also get pinched in and you see a good diagonal ball up the sideline. You think, that winger is going to get to that, and he's going to be whipping a ball inside the penalty spot in 3 seconds. And Jay's just got to stop in the middle of the story, whatever point he's making. And he's good at that. He's really good at that.
That's cool. I love the interaction. Oh, and how do they switch their TV to you?
The toughest thing about soccer on the radio, having done football and basketball, is trying to convey where the ball is on the field so that when you're driving up and down I-15, because there's always people who have to go somewhere. I-15 is never empty. It is. You're talking to someone who comes home after work back in the day at 1 a.m, right? You're on TV till 11:30. You do a couple things. You're driving home 12:31.
Like, how are there 300 people on the road right now?
There's people on the road. There's always people on the road. So how do they know where the ball is? And so over time, when I've come to, and I may experiment with it more, but right now, you've got to reference the center circle midfield. You've got to reference left sideline, right side, left channel, right channel, and then the center of the park. So you have an idea, so you can try to get some visualization, into the attacking half, into the attacking third. How far are you from the corner flag gives you a little bit of an idea. So people can kind of picture where the ball is on the field and what might be happening. But there's so many things happening. By default, you got to leave some out. I mean, soccer is made for TV, not for radio. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But they can listen to your radio calls. Is that what you're trying to get to on the
Apple podcast?
On the Apple podcast, you can click a button and get the local radio.
Only on the home games. They don't have the technology to get the road signal back. Well, they have it, but it's just, quite frankly, too cumbersome, and they don't do it.
Gotcha.
I think the radio, they use the home team because they can get it inside the stadium and get it to the truck, as opposed to getting it from a studio in whatever town and sending it to the truck. It becomes much more expensive and complicated. And
cool.
So never mind. They say never mind on the road. But you can always listen to us. And in the summer it gets less complicated. Like yesterday we were on 1160. They joined in progress on 1280 after the Aggies won the Mountain West Conference basketball title, because the NHL game with the Mammoth was over on 97.5. So we bounce around multiple signals. Sometimes we're on 2.7 FM, but not if BYU's playing, because that's where they are. So.
Nobody talks about BYU. It's okay.
Right. Good one.
All right. Well, David, we look forward to talking to you every year. We'd probably want to talk to you every week, but that would probably be too much for you.
You probably won't like us.
You probably wouldn't. Yeah.
We can talk again later this season, though.
Okay.
Yeah, we look forward to it. So thank you for joining us.
Maybe around the World Cup. We can get all fired up around the World Cup. By then we'll know. Well, by then we'll know if Wrexham got promoted for a fourth straight.
Yeah, buddy, let's go.
If Crawley didn't get relegated,
and if Arsenal wins the first,
yeah, he's an Arsenal guy. He gets on second.
I'm hoping that Man City finally get their punishment, and then when Arsenal wins the title, they can say, "Oh, that was the season City got their punishment. So
Yeah.
this kind
So it's got an asterisk.
yeah,
next to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's like the 2027 season, you know?
well, David, thank you much for joining us.
Okay.
We really love
All right.
talking to you. Thanks.
All right. We'll see you.
Take care.